Hello beautiful people and welcome to Mimsy Vids. I am Marwa aka Mimsy and today I'm joined by two of my lovely guests. I've got over here Imtiaz Shams, which I'll put his details below. So he has a charity, Faith to Faithless, right? So I will put that down below. Do check it out. And then obviously my husband, who you guys probably know already from my channel, Veedu
He's
Vids.
too cool. He's too cool to wave.
I don't know what these little signs are, but anyway.
Yeah.
So basically this is just going to be a chilled video. We've got some teas and coffees and snacks and we're just going to chat basically. I just have a few questions. Obviously we're all ex-Muslims, so just kind of a bit more about our backgrounds and our thoughts on things. It's totally improvised. So yeah, so basically I wanted to start off with us being Muslims. Obviously we were all Muslims. You know, as Muslims, what was the defining point? So obviously being born Muslim is one thing, but I think for me personally, there was a defining point where I was like, no, I really believe in Islam. Like Islam is the truth and I'm so happy. I'm so lucky I'm Muslim. I was born Muslim. And this is the one. So what did you guys, first of all, did you guys have a defining point? Not everyone does.
I think for me, I had many defining points. So I had, at different stages in my life, it was like you grew up surrounded by Islam, in my case at least, and so it's the kind of done thing. But you're always at least in my case, I was always trying to understand, okay, why? Why is Islam definitely the one true religion? And then you're looking for evidence for that. And there's lots of literature you can read to be like, yeah, that's why, the science and Islam works together. Look, it defends it. The literal miracle of the Quran, like, okay, you don't speak Arabic or you don't speak Fusha, but you can be like, hey, look, all these smart people say that it must be true. And then, you look at politically, you can see the world and you can be like, so I think there was a lot of different reasons I had at different stages. And sometimes I discarded reasons if they didn't make sense. So growing up, stuff around the Arabic miracle of the Quran, I think quite quickly as I got older, I was like, that doesn't make sense because I don't speak classical Arabic. And also the Quranic Arabic is a very specific type of Arabic.
It is, yeah.
So, like even Arabs don't fully understand Quranic Arabic and classical Arabic. So I was a bit like, well, that's not really evidence for me. So you then have to move to something else.
Yeah.
And that was it for me in terms of like being religious. I was ritually religious as well, which I know you said you were quite
I was very religious, yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I wasn't ever Salafi. I almost feel like very religious is right at the point of being Salafi, which...
I don't know if that's true, because you can be like a religious Sufi, like really into into zikr and whatever it is.
Do you know what it is?
Or Shia as well.
Shia.
What I mean is, even with Sufis, I almost feel like Salafis take everything literally, and I don't know, when I left Islam, I almost felt like, actually, maybe that is how you're supposed to do it, and that's why I can't agree to it. And that's kind of my thought process. But I was a bit more Sufi influenced towards the end, because I kind of was like, oh, they make it sound so much prettier, and like, you know what, it's so much more relaxed, and like, and everything is a metaphor. So I was like, oh my god, hell is a metaphor. Yeah, I'll go with that one. That's so much nicer. So
it's because it makes sense because like hell is such a crazy. Some of these things are such crazy concepts if you actually think about it. Like,
exactly.
True.
And then the only way you can mentally deal with it and still be Muslim is to have that kind of
metaphor.
Like I had a Quranist face for about 2 months. Like,
oh really?
Yeah, only 2 months, right?
I was a Quranist for the most part.
Did he?
Really?
Yeah.
For the most part.
You were a Quranist for like most
For a
of
long
He was a
time.
Quranist, basically.
which is morally better, but
Yes.
intellectually hard to
not.
take in,
Yeah.
right? So that's my problem because I was like, well, I'm Quranist, but there's some the problems I have with Hadith are basically in the Quran as well.
Yeah.
How do I deal with that?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
There's still funky stuff in the
yeah.
Quran that you're like, oh, I don't know. Like the sex slaves are in the Quran. Because I feel like Muslims would love it if sex slaves were just hadith, because then they could easily be like, oh, it didn't happen. But like they can't run away from it because it's literally there. And the word possession as well is used. But stuff like that, I definitely, as a Muslim, ignored for a very long time. And I just focused on the good. And there's lots of good things, about Islam that I loved. I mean, for example, even just the idea of it's very inclusive, it's not, I don't want to kind of like, cuss other religions, I don't know them as well, but I know, for example, Judaism is kind of very not inclusive, what's the word? Exclusive. But, Muslims are like, look, everyone, every color, every race, whatever you are.
Yeah, there's no racism.
We're all one.
There is racism in the history of Islam, but in its ideology.
You can all join Islam as long as you understand that Arabic is the best language in the world. That all the best people are Arabs.
Yeah, that's
God's
true.
language is Arab. I
Arabic.
used to think that as well, even as an ex-Muslim.
true.
But actually, over time, I've been thinking, is it really inclusive? Actually, because it's quite an Arabic religion in terms of like the way Arabic as an institution is pushed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you make
But
dua.
I get your point. It's
I
inclusive
get what
versus
you mean.
other ideologies.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean as well. But
The
yeah.
Ummah,
The idea of Ummah, whenever I think of that as well, I think of Hajj, and I always used to think, have you either of you guys been? You haven't been on Hajj, I mean, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I've been. Yeah, I
You've
used
been
to
on Hajj?
live in Saudi, so we used to go Umrah like
duh.
twice a year. Yeah.
So you like go every day.
You know what
Okay.
you see, again, that's another thing, right? So when you do Umrah, when you live in Saudi, you realize that this is supposed to be the holiest of land. Whether the country is a different story, but the land is holy.
Yeah.
Mecca is one of the most racist parts of Saudi Arabia. Isn't that crazy?
I didn't know
Wow.
So basically, like, if you we'd go there and there'd be like these large groups of like Filipino women, and the mutawas, the religious police, would like beat them with a cane, like to get them moving in a certain.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
It's really, really bad, and that's inside the holiest part.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe my experience is slightly different because I was exposed to like the Holy Land growing up, all for 10 years.
Yeah.
But I'm a bit more disenfranchised with this whole "we're all one love," type of thing.
Yeah.
I think it happens more in the West actually. Than it
Yeah.
does.
When you're away from
It
the
does.
Muslim countries,
It does.
then you feel there's need to have this.
As a Muslim though, I thought Muslims are the problem, not
Yeah,
Islam.
I thought that as well,
Not
yeah.
Islam. So if this is happening, it's not because of Islam. So they're just making mistakes. So that's always what I used to say. By the way, he still says Alhamdulillah, mashallah, like
Yeah.
Do you really?
constantly. And he just kind of does it out of, I don't know
I'm
why.
colonized. I'm
It's
colonized.
just
There's no
habit.
way back.
To be honest, I still say inshallah.
Sometimes if I'm driving in a car and it's me driving, because I'm a very bad driver. If I'm driving a van,
We're Asian, isn't it?
I do sometimes think about either saying Bismillah or doing the dua for like
Driving, yeah.
Bismillah majraha wal mursala
Yeah.
inna la rabbu- something like that.
I can't remember. My dad used to say it every single morning before we used to go to school. But you trying to remember?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
But,
yeah.
No, but we also, something we were talking about off camera, but I thought was really funny, is that we were really into the nasheeds of that time.
Allah.
I was super into the nasheeds. So I loved like Dawood Warnsby. So I talked about I'm so blessed to be with them. That,
Million strong all year long. Praise to Allah even in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong,
Look at that. See? Okay, so what was your favorite nasheed? So obviously that was Native Deen that you were rapping.
No, I know what my favorites were.
Which
It was
one's your favourite?
All of them were Dawood Warnsby Ali. All of them. My favorites were all Dawood.
I never really listened to him.
Oh, he was so good.
Well, you didn't really listen to nasheeds growing up, but I think I went to a Muslim
Sing, children
school.
of the
Did you go to a
world,
Muslim
sing.
school?
No, but I used to go to all of the East London mosque like nights.
Oh,
So
okay.
you sleep over and.
Oh, really?
I didn't know that. But I mean, I went to a Muslim school.
YMO or Y?
What's that? Young Muslims.
Something like that. Yeah.
That's
YMCA.
cute. That's really cute.
You went to
actually.
Muslim school, right?
So I went to a fully Muslim school. Like we used to sing nasheeds as like our, you know how people assembly exactly. So
Really?
people have like plays. We did some Islamic plays, which my dad normally
We
kind of
didn't do
did.
that in a thingy. In our school.
More so the primary. You only went to
the
the
primary,
so
right.
Waleed went to the same school as me, but secondary.
version.
The boys' version.
Secondary
Which is
school.
how we met. Everyone always asks how we met. We met at school.
Islamic school.
We met at Islamic
Islamic
school.
school, yeah.
Obviously, we're being really good Muslims.
Allah put us together. And then you took us apart. Yeah.
Obviously, we were being totally halal and talking to each other. I mean, actually, so
Through the curtain.
So, yeah.
Avert your gaze.
Yeah, so basically something about just a little side note of Islamia school is really funny. But the primary school, you're mixed, and then when you get to secondary, they segregate you because obviously it's haram, right? So the boys are down the road and the girls are here. But there was a little corner shop that used
In
to
the
be
middle.
in the middle.
And that was the.
And it was like
the-
the meeting point. The meeting point of the boys and girls. So we'd all go and like pretend we're like getting sweets, like, I'm the boys on there. And like I'd be like, astaghfirullah, bismillah, and like, with our little hijabs. And then he used to go every morning and get a carrot cake. And that's basically I know how funny, it's so cute.
Yeah.
That was his breakfast.
Wait, you had him carrot cake?
I like carrot cake.
He
I like
likes
carrot cake.
So I was like, the first thing I knew about my husband is he likes carrot cake a lot.
Alhamdulillah.
So
I was keeping it halal.
I used to go for your cult every morning, and he used to go
Yes,
for that.
Chris.
So anyway, side note. Okay, cool. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. So cool. Yeah, my favorite was Dawood Wansby as well, and Sami Yusuf. I actually mentioned Sami
Sami
Yusuf.
Yusuf's cool.
I still listen to Sami Yusuf quite a lot though.
He's really good
I
though.
still listen to nasheeds now and sing them
Yeah,
around
I've
the
got them
house.
on my phone.
Yeah, legit. Like it's still. Do you know what? I'm still in some ways culturally Muslim. I don't know why, but it's just,
I say the same thing, and
Yeah.
I get so much hate from both Muslims and ex-Muslims for that. Like, and the way I try to explain it, I've thought about this a lot. The way I'll try to explain it is like, unlike people who had like Bangladeshi culture or Pakistani culture,
Yeah.
I didn't really grow up with that. I grew up with like
Same.
Muslim culture
Same.
because it was a thing at the time in the
Yeah.
UK.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't have like Qawwali to draw on. Do you know what I mean? I'm getting into that. I've got into it now.
Quality.
Qawwali is
for
this
example.
guy's
But that's
jam.
your,
That's
it's
his
your thing.
jam,
I love
yeah.
Qawwali like
Yeah.
now, but I didn't grow up with it.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I grew up with it. So for me, I didn't really
Yeah,
do the whole
yeah.
Nats kind of, or the Nasheed stuff, but I did more the Qawwali stuff.
I love the like I still listen to Nats as well actually, though, but we never really listen to Nats. We more listen to like nasheeds. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it was all
Alhamdulillah.
about the nasheeds. But also, it's just a connection to my childhood more than anything.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
the
don't,
same for me, yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
connect to the weird things about Islam, but I connect to like, oh, when I was a kid, this was my jam. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was cute. But anyway, so obviously we all left Islam
do
eventually.
you know the words to the whole Yusuf Islam As For Allah song?
I don't know.
No.
I think I know all of the words.
I know all of Sami Yusuf's whole like Al Muallim album.
But there's not a lot
that's
of words.
it.
There's like
It's a lot of it's a lot of that.
Yusuf Islam's one is
Muallim.
no, but like okay.
Do you remember the Allahumma salli
Yeah, I remember that.
Sayyidina?
I like that.
That was a cool one.
Do you know what? Sami Yusuf got so much hate.
so good.
Muslims are so deep because, like, even
was cool, man.
Muslims get
Yeah,
hate.
yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like it's too much. Like, I
know
felt
what?
so bad for him.
Imagine if he was not born a Muslim, he would be like I think he'd be much bigger in terms of like, because he's got a good voice.
Really?
Yeah.
I think so. I think he's got good. Like, if he
He's
was
just
a-
very talented.
I think he's a very
mean,
talented
But I
guy.
think he's done
Talented.
quite well.
But
with
he's done
He's done really well.
Don't get me wrong, Sammy. He's done a good job.
In case you're watching this video,
Yeah.
Sami
Yes,
Yusuf.
just in case. We're on your
Sorry,
radar.
Sammy. We're still a big fan of yours.
I love you so much.
I went to
You were my childhood.
Actually, I got Native Dean's autograph. I
Did
met
you?
Native Dean. Yeah. I went to their concert. I was like, whoa! You know what? It's so funny. Have you ever been to their concert?
No,
It's like-
concerts are haram. No, too much
But
misking. What is this?
Native
No, it doesn't matter.
It was
Does
all,
not matter.
It was
Yeah.
all
There's girls
hijabis.
and the boys sitting
Haram,
next to each other
haram.
clapping.
All the hijabi guys
Oh,
like.
clapping is haram. You have to say takbir.
Which
Allahu Akbar.
I used to do, but even I found it weird as a Muslim. Because I'm like, this is a bit cringe, you know? Yeah. You know, funny
I
thing
loved
is,
it.
I was speaking to an Arab ex-Muslim friend of mine about Sami Yusuf, because she likes Sami Yusuf a lot, but she finds the English stuff really cringy. Right?
Yeah,
Which,
it is a
now
bit.
that I think
It is
about
a
it, it's a
bit.
bit.
It is.
It's a bit like
all cringy. No, I'll
you know?
tell you who I found cringy and I didn't listen to. I listened to all the nasheeds,
I know.
and I'm really sorry. He knows who it is. I'm really sorry if like he happens to watch my video.
all the
I bet
Muslim
he won't.
singers, yeah.
But Zayn Beaker.
Oh yeah, I find him really
Oh,
cringy. He's like,
I
he
couldn't
tries
do
too
it.
hard.
I
He
couldn't
tries
do
too
it.
hard.
To me, he tried to be Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
it's a bit-
yeah.
Yeah,
it's
oh
too
my god,
much.
have you seen Muslim Justin Bieber?
No.
He's like a child with like a little quiff, and he does like he sings about. You're not sure whether he's singing about girls or God, but it's really Justin Bieber.
That's my
weird.
guy.
Yeah, it's
That's my
really
guy.
weird.
عليكم يا السلام عليكم يا
Anywho, so moving on from nasheed stuff. So obviously there came a point where we left Islam. So I just wanted to know if there was, again, I don't know if there was a particular kind of tipping point for you. I think it's never just one reason. So I don't know why Muslims kind of they ask me anyway, I don't know about you guys, but they always ask me like, what was it? Tell me, like, what was the reason? Why? And I'm like,
Yeah,
dude.
I mean,
like,
what do they? It's like sometimes they expect me to go. Oh, you know what? I grew up not reading anything,
Yeah.
and then I saw sexual slavery, and I was like, no, and I left.
Yeah.
Like that almost
not
never
one
happens.
thing, yeah.
Like, you know about stuff like that growing
of
up.
course.
You know,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, I can't give you a simple answer. But there sometimes is kind of a lot of things and then a kind of tipping point. So I don't know if you guys had a tipping point. Did you? And what was it?
For me, one of the things I find, because I talk with a lot of ex-Muslims and other exes from like ex-Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever, is I think it is a bit 50-50. So you've got a bunch of people who, you know, leave after they go to Umrah and, you know, it's raining and they're crying and all that, and then they realize they're an ex-Muslim. That does happen.
In Umrah, they realised?
I've known a few people who go on Hajj or Umrah and they leave.
Allah.
And
Wow.
and then there's a whole bunch of other people like me. I would put myself in that category where it was like a phased journey. Like so, you kind of, you know, for me it was always, I have questions like everyone else, and that's
Yeah.
fine, and you have answers to the questions.
Yeah.
The relationship between Muhammad and Aisha, the role of LGBT people, or blah blah blah, blah. And you have answers to them. But as I got older, some of these answers just stopped making sense, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was a very phased thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was phases. So I do remember there was
Yeah.
like 2 months where I couldn't handle the hadith. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna always, because you read stuff and you're like,
Yeah.
wait, they killed everyone above the age of basically 15 in the Banu Qurayza, and
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah,
how am I
yeah.
supposed to handle that?
How is that okay? Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, Quran only for like 2 months, and then you realize, wait a second, some of the same stuff in hadith is in the Quran, and I can't handle that.
Yeah.
So for me, it was very phased. Well,
Yeah.
I know for you guys, it was
For
different.
me, it was like you know the game Jenga,
Yeah.
where you remove one thing at a time. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize it, but this Jenga foundation or building, whatever, was getting weaker and weaker. And it just took. I literally remember the day. I remember the conversation, and I remember the feeling I had that last block was removed and everything came down. So I went from being a religious Muslim, I believe Islam is true, yes, okay, fine, I have a bit of trouble reconciling some stuff like science and blah blah blah, but I'm still a Muslim. There was not a single doubt in my mind that I was ever going to leave. But once that Jenga was removed,
all
it
super
just went,
quick.
whoa.
And the problem is, like, then you apply the fact that you don't believe for the first time to everything. Everything stops going,
Yeah.
wait a second, that
Oh,
thing.
yes,
What? Wait a second,
exactly,
that
exactly.
thing. And you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what happened to me. That's precisely
exactly
what
what
happened.
happened to me.
So
I think-
once these goggles were removed,
Yeah.
I was saying earlier that for me, like I also like for you, Islam is not just about prayer, fasting, but it's about it's about politics, it's about international affairs, about state and
History,
government,
yeah.
history, all of that. So when I left Islam, I didn't just say, okay, I'm gonna, all my other beliefs are still the same. All of my beliefs.
Changed.
They just
Everything changed.
everything just was like
Yeah.
up in the air,
Yeah.
and I had to re-examine what the hell do I believe now,
Yeah.
because that lens was removed. So now I was looking at things completely differently.
yeah, I completely agree.
For me, it was more because I think mine and Waleed's kind of journeys were very different. Actually, even though we both kind of
You're
left,
more
but
spiritual as well.
I was kind of more spiritual in the sense of like I would pray. Oh,
Is that actually...
it's a sign.
Is that what? What is happening?
Allah speaking
Can
to
you
us.
can you hear that?
Yeah, it's my.
Can you hear that? Imagine we said no. We should.
Oh my god! Yeah, I'd be like, this is like Neil Armstrong. You know, they say, "Oh, on the moon."
Yeah.
So I kind of would pray more. So I would like. I don't even know how much. Did you like pray quite regularly? I don't even know.
not as much
Not
as
really.
you.
I
We're
mean,
Pakistanis.
so
What was
I-
the hardest prayer for you guys? Fajr
Tarawih?
or Isha? Really, Tarawih?
Oh, as in general. Oh, like as in generally.
Forget Fajr, bro.
Fajr. Fajr
get
was the hardest prayer. But I was like very strong with my prayers. I mean, I didn't just pray. I would do like sunnah before and sunnah
Nafal as
after.
well.
Yeah. So like I was like on it. So and I would like read Quran before bed. Like I was very ritualistic in like what I did, and for me it was like I would legit talk to God. And also this is really strange. Like he laughs at me. I would legit be like, Allah, please, just like help me out with this. Like, come on. Like I would all do like constantly, like throughout the day. And then like another thing is, so my family from my dad's side and my mum's side are known to be Ahl al-Bayt,
Allah.
which is basically related to the Prophet.
Allahu Akbar.
So, and we actually in Morocco have like a big family tree, and we have a card from Saudi Arabia saying that we're Ahl al-Bayt. So it's like an official thing. So I was brought up like you're Ahl al-Bayt, like this is what you are. So I was always like, oh, okay, cool. So I can like talk to him too. So I was like, so I'd be like, not pray to him because that's
VIP
like,
card.
That's like shirk, yeah. But I'd be like, dude, like we're related. Like it's okay.
Wait. I have a question then. Because I get this asked. I get this not asked at me, but you know, like when someone is asking you something they're trying to tell you, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll get people come up to me and be like, but like, just close your eyes and pray to God and just ask Him to give you guidance. Did you ever do that? Did you like
all the time.
Listen, bro, like I'm losing it right now.
All the time. And I wanted to ask you guys because what my point was, I think slightly different for me. It was almost similar to you. It happened in phases. So I kind of changed my viewpoint. But then when I got to that point of like, oh my God, I don't believe it. It was like devastating for me. And I remember crying,
Really?
like really crying.
I
Yeah,
didn't
like
know that.
yeah, like all the time. And I was like, not telling him obviously, but I would cry all the time. Because I was like, I really don't want to not believe it, and I would actually be like, Allah, please help me understand this. Like everything I didn't understand, I would be like, help me understand this. And then eventually, it kind of came to the point where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to be okay with not understanding it.
Yeah. I kind of had a phase where I was like, nothing makes sense anymore to me, and I was like, I'm gonna go look at the hadith in Quran as if I wasn't born Muslim.
Yes.
And I said, God knows what's in my heart and what I really care about. And I genuinely wanted to be like I want to be Muslim because it's so painful not to be. At least that's what I
It's
thought.
easier as well, man.
It's so much easier, yeah.
Family
and,
Muslim.
Yeah, so then I was
it's
like,
so much easier, yeah.
and like I really was like, look, God will know. And you know, like you read that stuff and you're like, it's just impossible.
Yeah.
But you don't have a solution to that.
No.
It's like, okay, I don't believe, but what does that mean? Like, who am I?
Who
Like,
am I?
where am I?
Yeah.
What am
Your
I?
identity.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
feel like I felt like I'd lost everything.
Yeah.
And for me, I still feel like I'm out of the club. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
feel this.
Yeah.
No, I'm too
I
in the
don't
club
know.
now.
I think
I got too many Muslim friends.
for
to
you,
that.
see now, huh?
I got too many Muslim friends to be out the club. They love it. My Muslim friends who are like actually chill with me, they come to me with like even like problems because a lot of them know there's a lot of problems for them,
Yeah.
and they don't trust the advice they get from Muslims because
Yeah.
obviously they know that Muslims are going to be biased. So
Yeah.
they'll ask me for my opinions.
Wow.
And both as a Muslim with my Muslim hat and as an ex-Muslim,
That's
and I'll tell
interesting.
them both. And they can do with it what they want.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
so it's really
Mufti,
interesting.
Mufti
No,
style.
but no, it's not
There
like
you
that.
go.
It's more like they trust me and what I'm
To give an
gonna say.
honest,
Unbiased.
yeah, an
You know what I mean?
unbiased opinion. No, that's a good point actually. But no, a lot of my friends, my really close friends who like, you know, I went to Muslim school, so from year one till now, my whole, basically family to me, they're kind of like, so Islamically, you're not really supposed to be nice to an apostate. Not really.
Really?
Well, not really, because you're not. Firstly, Islamically, we believe you're not really. We believe. I'm like acting like I'm so Muslim. But as in Islamically, we were taught even at Islamia, like, okay, you guys are in this school because your friends need to be Muslim. Really,
yeah.
your friends need to
What?
be Muslim.
Yeah.
Because Islamically, you can't get that close to a
You
non-Muslim.
can't trust even Jews and Christians.
Yeah.
There are hadith about Sahih hadith about not trusting. And I think the other issue is also that apostates are slightly different. They're not kuffar. They're not non-Muslims because non-Muslims you can bring in.
Yeah.
Murtads are like
Disbelievers, yeah.
people who are like, you know this is true and yet you still decide to come.
Yes.
So it's
Hypocritical.
It's very
Yeah. Worse.
problematic.
Yes.
actually.
Worse.
Very
Well, it's not quite
problematic.
munafiqun, but it's like it's particularly problematic because they're basically saying, you know this is true, and yet
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you want to, you know,
Yeah.
in my case, because clearly I want to join the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Be paid by the Zionists.
Drink lots of
yeah.
alcohol, which I don't even do really,
Yeah.
but like you know all that kind of stuff. They think
Yeah.
that that's why.
Yeah.
So the Mormons will have the same thing. The Mormons will say the reason you left Mormonism is you know it's true, but you wanted to drink coffee. Do you know what I mean? Because they got the coffee thing.
Yeah.
they go,
Caffeine and alcohol. They don't drink alcohol either.
yeah.
That's
But yeah.
amazing. You want to go Starbucks, yeah.
It's just like
No.
Starbucks.
No, so there's pictures of people, Mormons who leave it, and the pictures are them with the Starbucks coffee, and
my
that's them coming
God.
out.
That is so funny. That's hilarious.
Crazy.
Oh gosh, but see, we don't do any. We still eat halal. We don't,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that bugs me. That's the thing that bugs me is that like literally everyone is like, it's, you know, you guys just want to follow your desires and you just want to, it's because you're in England and you just want to like go clubbing and you just want to do this.
Well,
More,
I haven't
I,
been clubbing
I
once.
actually think there's more ex-Muslims in the Middle East than there are even in the West.
Really?
I think because you're in a theocratic state.
I think so too.
Honestly,
Yeah.
like when, if you look at places like Saudi Arabia, 5% of the population is atheists.
Wow.
That's the current estimate. I reckon it's higher than that.
I reckon it's so much
Yeah,
higher.
I
They're
think-
not going to say. And people are always saying like, oh, you know, Muslim countries, they're so perfect. There's so much like.
I mean, to be fair, no one says that.
No.
Do they?
So, hold on. So let me come to that point. So basically, if you go into my why are Muslims, what was it? Why are Muslim women oppressed? Or are Muslim women oppressed video? On there, I was having a few discussions with people who were basically saying I was chatting a load of crap because I was saying that in the West, you know, essentially a woman can go out with a miniskirt and she's not going to get like abused
As much
as if she were. If I was to go out even with hijab in like Egypt or like Saudi Arabia,
dangerous.
it's dangerous. You can't go out at certain times. You have to go out with a guy. You have to have a chaperone. It's dangerous because of the society. And I had so much comeback of people saying, "What are you talking about? There's no rape in Muslim countries. There's no this in Muslim countries. There's no this.
It's
Muslim
so
countries are the
stupid.
safest countries."
But to be honest, most of those people have not lived in Muslim countries.
Exactly.
I bet you.
Exactly.
Right.
They haven't lived there.
Yeah.
And the truth is those countries are so corrupt that they don't even keep count of
stats, yeah,
stats
yeah. No,
of
they're
what's
not.
going on. Everything's hidden undercover. The amount of crap that happens. And they're like, "Oh, show us stats." I'm like, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about.
I mean, I'll give you an example. In Saudi Arabia, there's a massive problem with the Filipino maids being raped.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Kids, and then they get
Oh
taken as wives
Yeah.
because that's a legal way.
The
of doing
legal
it.
way, yeah.
And suddenly you're a wife and you're not allowed to leave. Like, how is
Yeah.
that okay?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's just Saudi Arabia. I mean, there's
But that's an Islamic thing. Obviously,
yeah.
that's a sex slave,
Well,
essentially. If someone
You're walad, right? If you're
it's complicated because the argument would be that they should have consent.
Yeah.
But what is consent if you're a maid of someone?
Yeah.
So that's where it gets
Well,
complicated.
what was consent even in that situation of the Prophet's time when you were at war and you were taken? So all those women you mentioned,
there's no consent.
what were they called? That tribe that they all
Banu
got killed.
Qurayza.
Banu Qurayza. So all of those people were killed. All those women and children were taken as slaves. So what choice did they have? Did they have a say in that? Come on.
Slavery was a very big issue for me as a Muslim because
Yes,
I think
me too.
for a lot of Muslims and ex-Muslims it's a big problem because it's so obvious.
Yeah.
And we live in a
Yeah.
world where we finally understood slavery is a bad thing. Like, it's not that Islam is particularly
Finally.
special with
No, it's
having
not,
slaves.
no.
Yeah.
We've had slaves for history, but finally the world has realized, hey, this is maybe a bad thing.
You know what? I
Yeah.
find it really strange that a lot of people, I don't know if this is like a UK or Western thing, a lot of Muslim people are like, oh, black people went through slavery and like white supremacy and like, oh, Jim Crow and white people are so like, just, they'll bash that.
Yeah,
but you talk about Islamic slavery. But they had rights.
Yeah.
No, man. It's like, hang on a second, guys.
They gave them the choice to be a
let me
slave.
tell you one of the worst. So I was in America with ex-Muslims in North America, and we were doing, me, Mohammed Saeed, and Armin were doing like a talk about reform, and I brought up slavery, and there was this is a video, like you can see it on YouTube. I was talking about, I did 3 months of research about slavery in the pre-Islamic era, because often people will say, oh, but Muslims, Islam brought a type of system to slowly bring slavery to an end, which is wrong because slavery existed in every single Islamic state.
And in fact, the transatlantic slavery was
don't even.
I'm not even
And basically, like there's a woman in the audience who, from what I could see, she was a Muslim. She wore the hijab. She was African American, and we got into a bit of a dispute about this because she was saying that Islamic slavery wasn't bad, and then she had the guts to try to tell me that that the slaves within Islam were happy slaves.
You know they were castrated.
That's what they say.
No, I know.
The amount of men that were castrated. I mean,
it's worse than that. Today in Mecca, there are Ethiopian castrati.
Really?
Today. And there's a National Geographic article you can read about that. And the Saudi government, when they're asked about it, they say, oh, no. We got them when the last castrations were happening. But that was in the 1800s. So you're saying that these people were around for 200, 300 years?
It evolved.
And they're all black.
Nice
They're
argument.
all black Ethiopians. So they're the protectors of the Kaaba. And you go there and you can see them.
So the other thing I wanted to know from you guys actually is, do you think Muslims can actually assimilate into the West, into the Western society? Because obviously there are people like Lauren Southern and Katie Hopkins who basically say no, they can't, and this needs to stop. We need to stop Muslims from coming in. So
Lauren Southern, Katie Hopkins, and Anjum Chowdhury.
Oh, yeah.
that's true as well. Very true. Yeah. So where do you guys stand?
In
with
one word, yes or no, what would your one word
Go on,
answer
will you
be?
always passing the question to Imtiaz? What about you?
I would say yes, they can, but obviously it depends on the kind of Islam that they believe. Of course they
I think
can.
that's
Of course it's physically possible. When I was a Muslim, when you were a Muslim, we were Western.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Were you? Did you see yourself as a Western Muslim or not?
No.
Oh, okay. So why not?
I thought that Muslims were one ummah, and I thought that the Western system was wrong, and I thought that we would eventually end up with a caliphate because.
Oh, really?
That's what's predicted. And
I did not think that.
And the Mahdi will come down.
You be the Mahdi.
Yeah, of course.
I don't believe that.
I mean, I did.
But the Mahdi is
Yeah.
like legit Islamic. Like you can't.
Yeah, you.
Mufti Abu Layth denies. Actually, I don't know if he denies that or not.
Mufti, I mean, I like
some of
Mufti
them
Abu
do,
Layth, but
yeah.
he says a lot
So
of things.
there's a minority of sheikhs that don't believe in the Mahdi.
Yeah.
The second
The thing is, there is
They're a
sources.
minority.
Dajjal.
You
They're a
can-
minority.
there are thinking
Minority.
There is thinking to draw on to say that.
Yeah.
But obviously, like the literalist explanation would be like it's
and the mainstream approach is what you're saying. Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
But but okay. So this is okay. Now I did not know this side of you. You're a dangerous guy. This guy's a dangerous guy. I'm telling you.
No, it's just that you
For me, bringing the caliphate was through peaceful process.
Yeah. No,
Da'wah,
I
da'wah.
got that as well. I didn't think too much about it, but I definitely thought eventually maybe all the Muslims would move and like I always thought like
Like a utopian.
yeah, exactly. Like we'd all eventually. I even thought myself like I should probably move to a Muslim country eventually.
Really?
Yeah. Because like eventually because
You guys are extremists, man. I was like, yeah, we can, because I was, and you're like, well, actually, that's not true because I wasn't. Okay.
yeah, no, because the thing is you want to have. You understand Islam as being perfect, so the politics are perfect, Sharia law is perfect, everything's perfect.
So
So
why not?
why would you
Yeah.
not want to live in like that utopia, as
Sharia.
you said? So, and then when you unravel it and realize it's not perfect, that's when it all kind of crashes down.
So back to the question: do you think they can then?
Yes, because Islam is man-made, so you can be anything.
Okay. That's not a proper answer.
But I do think Islam has specific issues with otherism. So
Yes,
otherizing.
yes.
Just like I would look at someone from the south of the USA who might be very conservative as
Yeah.
potentially having issues with otherism.
Right.
Like so
Yeah.
they would.
But
look
also
at-
with Islam is worse though.
I actually.
It's actually scriptural.
Yeah.
I think political ideology and Islam and scriptural ideology can be just as entrenched.
Yeah.
So just because I've met a lot of people like that who are very conservative, and their journeys out of that is the same as an ex-Muslim's journey, right?
Yeah.
In terms of honestly, the journeys are very similar. So you're right that where you draw it in Islam, but like let's be honest, we don't just draw it from scripture. Like a lot of Muslims will not even know scripture. They'll draw it
Yeah.
from what their peers are saying, what the community
What
is
they're
saying, what the
being
leadership
told.
is saying.
Yeah.
So it's more than just scripture, right? So I do think Muslims can assimilate. The issue we have is we have quite a literalist ideology when it comes to Islam in the West mostly.
Okay.
Yes.
So make it hard.
So it's basically what you've said.
But-
It depends on how you look at Islam.
Okay.
But I think it's happening.
Let's talk about the Muslims or the type of Muslims and the type of Islam that exists in the UK and Europe. Europe is different from America in terms of Muslims. So let's look at Europe. Do you think the Muslims have assimilated by and large? Yes, you'll find obviously individuals in some communities, but by and large, whether it's France, whether it's Turkey, whether it's the UK,
I think.
do you think we really, or Muslims have really?
I think assimilation is a difficult word because if you're a national of that country, your belief system is also part of that country. So what are you assimilating to? Because you have third generation French people who are very, very orthodox.
In terms of like Muslim.
So for
Yeah.
example, the way I think about these things is try to unbias myself by looking at others. So Hasidic Jews in the UK, Hasidic Jews do not assimilate, but they've been here sometimes for 4 generations.
Difference being, as far as I'm aware, they don't want to unconsciously or have a dream of subverting the foundation of the state. So they're not going to say unless they do.
No, you're right.
Whereas, like you were saying, one day the UK will be a caliphate. This will be a Sharia law, right? Even if you don't actively do anything, you're like, well, subconsciously we know.
It's an ideological utopia,
Yeah.
right? And that is problematic. And I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
really restricts
Yep.
some level of integration. I don't like the word assimilation because assimilation...
Or integration, let's just say.
The reason
Integration.
is because assimilation gives this idea of another body joining a bigger body, but in reality Muslims have been in a lot of these countries for a long time.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. The problem is political ideology. You can be even white, right, British, and then convert into a very extreme interpretation of Islam, and then you're not integrated anymore. You're looking at the other as non-Muslim. Do you know what I mean? So I look at it as ideology, ideological separation. That's
So back to the question. Given what we know from the Muslims, and you've spoken to many Muslims.
We were
you
in
will
the
have-
Muslim community, not just like
Yeah, but I'm
from an
saying,
outside view.
like we've spoken to different communities of Muslims, different
Yeah,
types of
yeah,
Muslims,
yeah.
and they all have this. Even like the more moderate ones are like, yeah, this is all cool, but you know, we really
yeah.
So
moderates can be just as bad.
just as
and worse.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, can
I
Muslims,
think
given the type of Muslims in
know,
Europe,
honestly, I think it's going to happen largely because of ex-Muslims. Because I think the reason that you had such a virulent, strong political ideology in Islam is because you didn't know you could leave, so you were sure you were right.
Right.
So with any kind of extremism, it's always about I am 100% sure the Earth is flat.
Yeah.
Right. If you're 100% sure the Earth is flat and everyone else is lying to cover that, you could do extreme stuff, or you could believe extreme stuff.
So-
but if you have Walid to talk to in your family or in your
Yeah,
friendship,
But then that makes you leave Islam, therefore you're not.
no, you don't have to
What
leave
do
it.
you
Exactly.
mean?
But the
you don't have
remaining
to leave
Muslims-
it. You don't have to leave it.
Oh, you
If
have
you're
a
just a
relaxed
Muslim,
point of
if
view.
you have this one seed of doubt as a Muslim,
Yeah.
you do not have that potential to be really extreme because you're like, what if I'm wrong? And a lot of Muslims
Right.
didn't have that. I didn't have that growing up.
Right. No,
If
no,
I had spoken
right.
to myself when I was a kid, even if I had never left Islam, I would have been like, oh wait, maybe I'm wrong.
let's play devil's advocate. I think by 2050, London will be majority Muslim. I think. Like
What?
That's
Seriously?
I
not true.
think it will
No,
be.
I don't think
2050.
so.
You're right. If you're assuming the birth rate is the same, it's not going to be the same. Muslims are having way fewer children now than ever before.
So
Really?
okay, it'll be like it'll be a sizable minority. It could be the biggest minority.
We're already like people from a Muslim background in the UK are massive, anyways, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, sure, we'll be.
So we'll be with the biggest, possibly the biggest minority within the UK.
Sure.
Why would that growing body of people why would they have the need to change anything if where they live is becoming more like... I went to Luton, some Bury Park, like 99% Pakistani Muslim, East London, like whether it's Aldgate or some other areas. If they're more Muslim, more Islamic, why would they need to change?
They have what they want.
Why would they need to change?
Because by definition, when you stop, often with diaspora and minorities, it's like you feel like you're tiny, so you stick much stronger to whatever you stick to. In America, Muslims are extremely wealthy. They're the wealthiest because they're highly skilled.
The immigrants,
They're immigrants, so they're much more integrated into American culture because they have a certain amount of power.
Yeah.
Here, that power is becoming quite great within this minority community, which didn't always exist before. You're right, and I think by definition that will mean you have you're much more integrated with wider society. Also, man, it's just happening. Like whatever.
Really? I don't know.
Man, no. Like this is anecdotal, and this is always going to be anecdotal. But like, and actually, it's not anecdotal. There was a recent review that with young Muslims, about 60% of them are against homophobia. Like they would believe in locking up gays, right? That's bad. 60% is a big number, right?
Yeah.
But that means 40% have no problem with LGBT marriage as well. So it was about marriage.
Right.
60% not okay with it. 40% are. That means 40% of Muslim young people are okay with gay marriage.
Yeah.
That's a big.
That's crazy, actually.
You wouldn't think that, right?
Because Islamically, they can't. That's
You can't defend
you're
that,
not
like,
supposed to. Yeah.
because you can also say I'm okay with gay people as people, but I don't believe in the marriage, and yet they're actively saying they're 40% are saying they're okay with gay marriage.
I think they're just divorcing themselves from it. Like
Maybe,
you can do what
yeah,
you want to do.
Yeah.
Well, which is
but,
better
But
than.
also, you know what's happening? Young Muslims are engaged with people online. They're engaged
Yes.
with each other.
Yes,
They're
they're more
completely.
connected.
Our generation was very different, Walid.
That's true.
Right?
That's
and
a good point.
you can't forget that. Like the younger generation, there's polarization. They're becoming more extreme, and they're also becoming more liberal.
Yeah.
And, I think the liberals will win because they're Muslims, especially when they're young, use the language of human rights to defend their own rights. They'll
Yeah.
say Islamophobia. Okay.
Yeah.
If you believe in human rights
And discrimination,
you have to start applying that logic elsewhere,
Yeah,
and they
elsewhere.
are.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic. I think I can defend my optimism, and anecdotally, I am seeing that. Like I really am seeing more Muslims having to defend them against
Yeah,
us,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which forces them to think about their own position.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
I mean, that
No,
sounds
I
great. I
understand,
think
yeah.
that would be good for the Muslim societies to kind of, become more liberal thinking and all of that. So I hope so.
Well,
I don't know though. I just don't know.
I just look at. I mean, maybe in the UK it's better. But when again, I've been to France, but I haven't seen the Muslim communities in France and
Yeah.
Germany. Would you say there it's much worse?
It's very polarized. So French Muslims who are much more like integrated into French society, you would in the West. They're not considered Muslims really, even if they are, right? While the very extreme elements are considered Muslims, but they're both from the Muslim background, right? So I think they're very polarized in France. And France is a particular issue with racism. Like,
Yes.
I've been to France a few times. I
Yeah.
know a lot of ex-Muslims and Muslims. All the ex-Muslims in France will talk to you about racism,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Because it's not like in the UK where if we have racism, it's a little bit subtle.
Yeah.
In France,
It's very polite.
It's very straight.
Yeah.
Hello, I've been to India. I'm like, I'm from Bangladesh.
That's what I get as well. Yeah.
But French racism, from what I understand, is like really bad. So
Yeah.
the polarization is a reaction to that. But also there's just Islamism in France as well.
Yeah,
There is.
yeah.
So there's a big problem in France that I think we are able to move forward a little bit in the UK. I think there, for a lot of reasons, it's going to be harder.
Their number of Muslims is much larger than we have.
I think we have a lot of Muslims in the UK. I don't know the stats.
Okay.
I do think there are
You've
more.
got loads of Algerians and Moroccans, right?
Yeah,
Loads of them.
I mean, there's like 10%. What was
The funny
quite
thing
a
is,
big
like,
percentage.
Algerian and Moroccan Islam was very different. It's much more liberal. It's becoming extreme over
That's what
time.
I've said that before
said
on my
it before,
channel. So the North Africans were originally, if you go back home, so obviously, if anyone doesn't know, I'm half Moroccan. So when I go to Morocco, they're very Sufi orientated
Very
and
chill.
relaxed and very chill.
Yeah.
He went with me just last year.
I went last year with you, and we went to the beach. There's women wearing bikinis, and no one was like.
Yeah.
It's,
And I was like,
it's
I
kind
think
of.
this wouldn't have happened in
And I think
Pakistan.
like one of the things is also that they had this identity, especially in Tunisia, with like the Amazigh. What would you're not supposed to use the word Berber, but that's kind of
Yeah.
the
Berbers, yeah.
And now recently there's been a resurgence of Amazigh kind of culture. So I think because Amazigh culture was quite anti-Islam.
It is.
Right?
Well,
The old grandmothers will have tattoos on their face.
tattoos on their face.
Do you not know
But there'll be
Oh, that'd be
tattoos
great.
with hijab, you know.
Yeah.
Like
It's really
that's
funny.
kind
Yeah,
of what they
yeah.
do. So yeah.
Fair enough.
But there is a bit of like the racism you'll see in Morocco. I mean, I don't know about Algeria and the other countries, but I know there is. So our family are known as, particularly in Morocco, they have kind of like the Arabs who they say are, a lot of them are Ahlul Bayt because like some relatives of the Prophet came and settled there basically. So, but there's a lot of racism and there's kind of a splitting of the Berbers and the But for some reason, and I think it's what one of you guys said, just about how when you come to the West, you know, you want to kind of cling on to, you know, this diaspora, you know, our culture, you've got to cling on to it, so they become extreme, which I think, I mean, you mentioned obviously this culture is becoming more modern and liberal and whatever, but I've always seen it as actually they've become more extreme than their parents.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
But I think that was a reaction to a few things. One, there was a ridiculous amount of money being pumped into mosques from Saudi Arabia and the Gulf countries.
Yeah, that's true.
That's kind of stopped, right? So
Really?
yeah, it has.
Why?
Because of counter-extremism, like because people are blowing people up. So the government's like, maybe we should okay, we like to give money to the Saudis, but maybe we should stop that money kind of coming back. Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing is I think like there's a much more wider awareness about ex-Muslims now. Like 5 years ago, this was not the case. Like, you know, the fact that you can now do it, you know, you can have a chai and you're like, hey, my name's Mimsy. Like, that's a very different experience than back in the day. It was like just like one or two activists, you know.
yeah.
Now it's like people that you just grew up with, right?
Well, my dad, I mean, I used to honestly get nightmares about like people coming to our house and just like killing my dad in our sleep. Like,
Because your dad was like one of the originals,
The OG.
the OG, yeah.
OG.
Well, like ours, you know, in many ways, they've paved the road for us, but we are a different time and place and people, and I think what's happening is that's normalizing it in a way that didn't exist, and so that is also, you cannot forget that, because that's a snowball effect. It's accelerating. It's not going to ever reduce now.
I mean that's why I'm doing it, and I'm sure that's why you're doing it.
I know I'm doing it for the Zionists. I don't get any money from this. I spend money on this stuff. I'm so broke every time I spend money on it.
I know.
Everyone thinks like, I'm
get
like, have you seen
paid.
I buy all my camera equipment from eBay secondhand. I always hustle it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's just, I wish I mean, that'd be great if any Zionists want to
If
sponsor
any Illuminati want to sponsor us, if you're a lizard person
Yeah.
and you looked at us and you were like, you know what, these people would make good lizard people, like, bring it on.
Bring it
Give
on.
us the money.
But yeah, no, it's all about helping society, and your charity is so good for like helping the
Faith to
people,
faithless.
faith to faithless. So do check it out if anyone's kind of struggling.
We have loads of videos, not just ex-Muslims, but also like other ex-people.
Yeah.
One of the things that helped me,
You've got a lot of exes.
a lot of
all his ex-girlfriends.
anyways, but what's really good, I think, for ex-Muslims, and if you're a Muslim, to understand what someone might go through, is to watch ex-Jehovah's Witnesses or ex-Hasidic Jews, because it's the same story in many ways,
Same,
right? Being
literally.
shunned,
Yeah.
feeling like you don't know that you could leave and all that. It's the same thing, you know?
Yeah, and also it can be helpful just to, especially when you're so in your religion, which I know because I was in it, and you're kind of like, no, it makes sense, and then you're like, Christianity's kind of stupid though, and then and then
Like, I believe in three gods. What is that? Which, by the way, is kind of wrong. Like Muslims don't understand
They don't
other
understand.
theologies.
No,
Like
no.
Hinduism is not.
Worshipping
worship.
thousands of
No, it's like the idols is like the Kaaba. Like you
Yeah.
worship the Kaaba then, but you
Yeah.
don't, because
Yeah.
you're kind of, it's a
Yeah.
anyway. It's like
They don't get it. The thing is, they don't want to get it because
it's easier to say, oh, you're idol
It's,
worshippers.
it's
Yeah.
so much
You don't worship
easier.
idols.
Yeah, it's so much easier. But I suppose it would be helpful to see them leaving that religion and then go, oh yeah, it's a good thing there, and then you kind of reflect on your own self. You're like, oh wait a minute.
I always say this with Muslims who get stuck, and I understand why they get stuck. They get stuck with ex-Muslim rights, right? And you know, well, why does your family have to accept you because you rejected them? So I'm like, cool. So when a Muslim converts to Islam and they're from a Sikh family and their family cut them off, which has happened to a lot of converts I know, you're okay with that? And oh no, their family should accept them. Oh wait, why are you having that hypocrisy, right?
Yeah.
Double standard.
Double standards. Complete
Was it
double
fallacious double standards? I'm gonna keep like busting. It was the best.
All these philosophical ideas.
standards. I keep saying this. Okay, I'll keep going. Oh, I'll take everything out of context.
I love it. I love
What
it.
you guys don't know is that in that video, I can't remember why I think I started like rapping MUS, and since then she's been like she was like
literally,
thinking about
I'm
it.
walking around the house going MUSLIM. The other thing I keep going is Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. I'm a Muslim.
How's that worked out for you?
She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I like the song, man. I don't care. So now being an ex-Muslim, I want to know what you guys think. Basically, how has your life changed?
I would say that when I left Islam, one of the first feelings that I had was, obviously there's a lot of sadness and regret. Like, I've invested a lot of time in this religion, I really believed in it, and it's not true. But once you get over that, once you get over that sob story, then it's actually quite empowering, because I realized if I do something good, if I help someone, I'm not doing it for reward in the heaven or hell, whatever. I'm doing it because it's a good action and I'm a good person, and the opposite is true. So for me, I felt so empowered, because it was like, I can't blame anyone for anything. I can't have a go at anyone. It's me. It's you. So for me, it was a very empowering thing. And I was like, yes, like, I'm going to do it, man. I'm going to do it. I'm going to smash life. I'm going to not wait for afterlife. And you wronged me and you didn't do this to me. It's like, no, this is it. This is it. This life becomes so much more precious when you realize there's no hereafter, mate. So stop having regrets. If you want to do something, go do it. Unless it's going to kill someone. But, you know, all the dreams or desires or ambitions you have, do it, man. Stop wasting your time.
I agree. I kind of felt, I don't know how to say this, but I kind of felt in some ways like I could be a better person. That sounds kind of lame. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I didn't have this view of, well, that person's gonna go to hell, because you know, it was.
I'll see you in hell.
It's like, it didn't have that kind of like. It wasn't kind of like, well, I have the right religion, you have, and I always hated that. I always wanted to be like equals with people, whoever I met. I always hated the fact that I was like, oh, so you're a Muslim, and it's like people.
You don't like otherizing.
Yeah, exactly. I just kind of like just loving everyone equally and whatever. But so I love that about it, and also I don't know. What do you think?
It's so similar for me. Like, as a Muslim, like I think there was this idea that we want to make the whole world an ummah, but there's a limit to that, because there's so much angry language towards the other. And now, like, you know, I would consider myself like a humanist. So for me, it's about all people, and it's about like, you know, and the planet and all that kind of stuff. So I can kind of be a bit umbaya and like everything's come together.
Yeah, it's a bit more hippie.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, what it's made me is also a little bit more, my decision making's changed in how I view the world. So you know what, we were talking about politics before. So for me now, I'm like, wait a second, there is no justice. We have to make our justice. And sometimes there just isn't justice.
There isn't always a perfect answer.
No, and it explains why the world is so messed up. Because if you have a God, it's like, well, you know, okay, we've got to fight for this kind of justice, but this is a bit crazy and unfair. And now it's like, of course it's unfair. People are just making stuff up. That means I can also push the world in the direction I want. So with a lot of the ex-Muslim stuff, it's like, well, I feel like this is such a institutional, communal, religiously sanctioned injustice in how we get treated. So either I can sit there and cry, or we can try to do something about it. So it's exactly what you're saying.
And I think
you can kind of make an impact.
I think maybe this may be a related point, but a lot of time with religions or certain very strong political sort of philosophies, like maybe I see a very strong similarity between theocracy and communism.
It's a utopia. Utopian thinking.
This utopian thing that there is just a perfect model out there. We just haven't got there yet. But when you leave that, you think, no, this is it. There is no perfect model. We just, like, it's always going to be like 90% great and then 10% crap.
You know what it's like? It's like growing up. You know when you grow up and you realize, wait, your parents are just people who are figuring stuff out. You know, because when you're a kid, you kind of...
They know everything.
And you realize, wait a second, they think that dinosaurs... Or like, you know, like they, you know what I mean? Like, and you're like, what? You know?
No, you're right. I mean, when you realize, oh, wait, I'm an adult now. So am I supposed to have like the way my parents knew stuff? Am I also, because I can't even operate a microwave? You know what I'm saying? Like, am I supposed to know everything? And when you realize like the government is run by people like you,
just people,
or the people in the mosque are people like you, and you don't have the answers, and they don't have the answers either.
You know who is it? Bill Burr.
He's my favorite.
He has a really good bit. So he's Catholic, but he'd be like, you know why he doesn't take Catholicism so seriously? He's like, because you know, I'll be like there and there's a guy in the pulpit and he's like, you know, this is the way to live your best life. And he's like, then I'll have dinner and this guy's name is Steve. And he's just a dude with kids. Just, you know, and he's like, that is... It's the same for us. Like, it is just a dude. You know, they're just people. They're not special.
I think this is one of the things. When you realize the world is not perfect and it will never be perfect, you stop living in this illusion. Like, oh, it will be, and we've just got to follow the Sharia this way, or if it's a communist thing or whatever thing. When that veil is lifted from your eyes and you realize there is no perfection, then it actually makes you work harder. Because there is no Imam Mahdi to get you out. There is no Jesus to get you out. There is no God.
You can't just make a dua and it'll go away.
There is no other hereafter, out of claws, out of thingy to save you. You've got to do it yourself.
Yeah. So
And you know,
true.
I think it's quite interesting with when I was speaking to a friend of mine about this with ex-Muslims and how we deal with disputes, right? So ex-Muslims are so diverse in their views, right? And we're very open about it because obviously we've left a hardcore ideology.
So we're not going to say,
and they're not always nice spaces in terms of where they debate, but there are certain spaces which are really interesting where you can have quite controversial topics like trans rights or you know or like Trump or
Brexit or whatever.
And you can have actually quite good discussions where people have such differing views and people's views change because they're like, well, I left Islam.
It's a bigger deal.
I was so sure. So maybe there's something else.
You
I'm
can
wrong.
change your view, which is great because as a Muslim you kind of just think this is it and it's just in
and
that
it's
bubble.
harder to change the view because like theology means that there's this objective
Yes.
and you know, I mean it isn't, but also you think that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you think the rest of the world has objective answers to it. And you
There
know
is
what?
no
There just aren't.
Yeah.
Like you know,
It's interesting how you guys are very much kind of I don't know if you always have been like this where you think more about the bigger picture of Islam. I don't think I did as much as a Muslim. I don't know if it's just I was in my own little bubble, but I kind of always just thought of selfishly myself. No, I just don't know. I mean, as in like I always just thought of like my own personal journey with Islam and even like little things with so I would always think, okay, you have to do things for the sake of Allah. I don't know if you had this as well. Did you know? So it's like
your niyyah has to be always
your niyyah has
towards
to be
Allah.
so even if you're doing something for someone else, it can't be like I just care about this person. It has to be for Allah, otherwise it won't count. Is basically what I was told. So for me, I don't know, this is such a weird thing to say, but I remember just being like, you know what, I can just do it because I've always wanted to feel like I can just do it just because I want to care about this person and just because I want to do it for the sake of
I
doing
find
it.
that statement, for the sake of Allah, one of the most patronizing and condescending.
Yes.
I love you for the sake of Allah.
Yeah.
So it means, hang on,
I'm
do you
only-
actually love me then? I
I'm just
understand.
giving you
Well, it's
advice
not
for the sake of
unconditional
Allah.
love, is it?
Yeah,
But
for the sake of Allah.
it's always, I'm advising myself before I advise you and for the sake of
so
Allah.
Cringe,
I'm always,
so cringe.
Well, the worst thing is like when I left Islam, like people messaged me like trying to like, hey, just because I love you, bro. I'm not, and then they'll start going on this rant about. And the thing is, they all know that I know theology better than a lot of them. I'm not an expert, but you know. And so they'll message me and they'll give me this, and they know that I know more about theology, so they won't go into the theology. They'll be like, you know, I made dua for you yesterday. I just think that you're just misled by all these white people, or whatever it is. And I'm like, yo, listen, man, you're just ignoring my
West.
journey.
I mean, do white people get blamed for everything?
Think about it. But
bless
you,
them, man. They got nothing to do with it. They're just like,
but you know, but
What do I do, mate?
I have to say, I think maybe I'm mischaracterizing like my journey now because it's not just about the bigger picture. I think the bigger picture is what's important to me in many ways.
Okay.
The real day to day has changed so much as well. Like so for me, like you know who you can date, what your future looks like. It's massively impacted, right? Because like as a Muslim, you cannot marry a non-Muslim, right? You just cannot do that.
well, unless you wanted a Christian or a Jew.
And even then, you couldn't.
I wouldn't be allowed to. Yeah, for sure.
Even if you do marry a Christian, you're trying to convert.
And then also, you know, there's this whole thing like, you know, children are great, so you can have children, so you need to have children. And you know, there's so many aspects of your life which are controlled by or directed by Islam. And like you have choice because you can kind of do what you want, but it's sin, and sin is such a big thing. It's a big burden on you. While now it's like, because I can make the choice, if I do something that's nasty to another person, if I'm an empathetic person, it's going to hurt me. That's the sin that I feel.
Exactly. It's not just
You know
this
what I mean?
punishment feeling of
So like when you're kind, it's kind of like
It means more. It means
means
more.
more.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
so true.
it
And
does.
that's what I was trying to get to. You said it better than I did. Yeah,
Cheers.
exactly. Everything just means more. And you're doing it for the sake of that kind of good thing.
Because it's not for the sake of Allah, or because not for the sake of the state, because not for the sake of some race.
Not because
or
you were
other-
told to
it's
as
because,
well.
you know what, you wanted to.
Yeah.
And to be honest, a lot of these things, like, we have these biases even when you leave Islam, right? It's not that like they go away. It just gets a little bit better.
Less, you water down a bit.
And
yeah.
you hopefully, because I do see ex-Muslims who leave Islam and they think that suddenly they're not sexist, they're not this, they're not that.
You still can be.
You can still be.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
you can still
absolutely.
be.
You're not like
But-
perfect. once you-
Yeah. I mean, speak for yourself, Marwa.
Okay, cool. So I think we'll end it there. But thanks to you guys for joining us. And it's been really, really fun. If you guys want to see another one of these kind of casual conversations, definitely let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Stay in touch. Bye. Mwah.
You still, what is that? I don't know what that is.
He does that every time.
It's not like the.
He does like he
Waleed.
does it in every.
It's a W.
He thinks
Or it's a
really
V.
cool.
If you do vids, Waleed way.
Oh wow.
Anyway.
You have not left Seven Kings.
No. That was really fun
Really
though.
good. I like that. That was so much fun.
It wasn't even that exhausting
What?
because I think it was like a chat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Like
just felt
the
it
Zakir
felt
Naik
bad.
one was like my energy just drained from.